One thing I rarely ever complain about are the Power Rangers figures. Doesn't matter the season or the designs, Bandai always comes up with something pretty good, even when they do those limited posable figures. I even like when the toy lines create their exclusive figures, or they come up with a really nice battle armor. How I grade them are on features, looks for displaying, unless they had an error or design flaw, and what they come up with. Do they have their guns? Does the armor fall off? What's the playability like for kids? When I was young, I rather had lots of weapons and attachments that work with the figure. I didn't mind a less detailed figure as long as they were painted enough. Thank you, Harry927, for the topic. If you have a suggestion for a topic, leave a comment down below. I may pick yours.
SPD Battlized Rangers.
The PR toy line improved on how the Battlizers were done compared to the show. In the series, the Red Ranger is usually the only one to be special to get the armor, which I never cared for. I'd rather have it be a team shared ability. It doesn't have to be a team-wide ability like the Lights of Orion, but everyone should be able to use it. SPD even shows why it's dumb with this restriction. What if the Red Ranger was injured somewhere else, or the Morpher was broken, the team's SOL out of the power-up? The toy line goes one step further and gives the other Rangers different designs to their Battlizers. So we have the modified Rick that comes with Red Ranger, but Blue and Green got different dogs. They got some pretty good posability on the arms, where the armor, like theirs, does cause issues. It was always a pain to get the Shogun Rangers to pose with the sword. I like these because you're basically getting a Ranger figure, the armor's weapons, and a robotic dog. There's a lot of ways you can display them.
Space Battlized Rangers.
Another set of Battlizer figures that were original. They went the extra mile and designed all different types for each Ranger, continuing the theme of using animals as a basis, like how Andros' Battlizer is based off a hawk-like bird, Blue Ranger being a spider, Silver a dragon, and Black more weapons-based with beetles. The only complaints I have about them is the armor kind of falls off easily. Zane's one is made of cloth, so it likes to not stay connected to the plastic parts, and you can easily rip the wings, especially if a kid likes to use them in role-playing stuff. They could have used a little bit more detail in areas, mainly on the arms of the spider. I'd say if you want features and looks, go for Black Ranger, since he's all about posing with weapons.
Tsunami Cycles.
I wish the show did what the toys did, but they were stuck with Hurricane footage. In the toy versions of the Tsunami Cycles, each of the Rangers get a small suit upgrade. It's just better shoulder pads. It was nice that all 6 Rangers got bikes, including Cam. I always thought it was dumb that the guy who made them never got one on the show. The bikes themselves are really nice. My favorite part are the wheel logos. They put the proper logo on the bike. The only bad thing about the bikes is the out-of-place Power Rangers logo. I don't get why Bandai does this, like people don't know this is a PR toy. A lot of stuff was branded this way. The figures are fully posable, so you don't have to worry about them being stuck in a squatting pose. The sets also come with special weapons, so if you want to have more weapons to switch to, getting the Tsunami Cycles is a bonus.
Samurai Shogun Rangers.
Of all the series to have a team-wide Battlizer, Samurai is the one that gets it. It's not fair, mainly because the Neo Saban seasons restrict these power-ups to the cockpit of the show just to save money. Other than that, these are great-looking Ranger upgrades. I know people don't consider the Shogun armor a Battlizer, but because it comes from a belt buckle like Wild Force, and the armor is large like the Mega Battle armor in Lightspeed, I count it as a Battlizer. Figure-wise, it has good detail, especially when they reuse the large Samurai figures minus the electronics, which they annoyingly didn't remove the battery compartment on the back. The armor itself is nice looking. All the pieces can pivot, so nothing really blocks movement. The sword is lackluster because it's just silver and it weighs a lot, where the figure can't hold it up at all angles. The best part being the symbol crown. It just sucks that the entire team wasn't released in the toy line.
Galaxy Cycle Rangers.
I love the Galaxy Gliders. They're basically PR's hoverboards. A nice combo of surfboard, a rocket, and for Zane a bike. The toys have 2 versions. One is the Galaxy Cycles and another which is just the glider, so everyone can have a bike configuration. But if you want them to match the show, you gotta buy the Galaxy Glider versions for the main 5 Rangers. My favorite part are the detail that they put on the cycle version of the platform, so when you convert it to bike mode, it has an engine and other doodads. Zane's glider has a more unique look with the extra strap and Space Mail logo on the front. The figures are basic, but it does come with the Astra Blaster sidearm. The gliders work really well with most figures. There's no post, so any figure can just stand on it. And they work great with the SH Figuarts arm stands. So if they ever make In-Space or Mega Ranger figures, you got yourself some vehicles.
Vector Cycle Rangers.
Out of all the bikes that have been made before and since Time Force, the Vector Cycles are, in my opinion, the best. They look really close to the show thanks to the chrome parts. Again, like other bikes lines, the Rangers get a slight modified suit design so you don't feel like you're buying the same figure over again. It even comes with their own sidearms. That should have been put into the show. I like the Chrono Blaster just fine, but the bikes having their own stuff is cooler. I like if they function as aiding them to drive the bike and do all sorts of things. Even Eric got his own Vector Cycle in the Toyline. I didn't really care for that one. I think full body red is overboard, but it's still good if you wanted to complete the line. Very rarely do I like the bikes. There's always some problem with them. MMPR half the time didn't use them. They had bad stands to hold them up, calling out Season 2's Thunder bikes, or had some weird design flaw. I recommend these.
Auto Morphin Rangers.
These could have been my number one. I really love the Auto Morphin figures. They're a great concept. Ranger figures always suffer from one common issue. We don't see the characters. The suits are great and all, but I don't like to stare at their helmets all the time, so the flip heads were a simple but a nice way to do that. It even gives you a fun feature kids would use as their form of karate action. But there were a few things I hated from these figures. The MMPR figures had a really bad design flaw. The arms of the figures would easily break off from the inside with very little use, even from just turning it to oppose the weapons. I'm hoping the reissues fix this problem. Then you have the stupid chest emblems. It was a weird legal requirement or something I heard. They didn't want to have a confusion with the Jew Ranger figures in Japan. That's why you see them without the tattoos in the box photos. The worst being Tommy. What was up with them not using the Dragon Claw? When I was young, I thought they made a mistake and put Titanus on Tommy. Worst problem was the fact that they just disappeared. For something really popular to the point of even Japan doing it for a few years, they would hardly ever be used in other seasons. This line should have been a staple till today. Even some countries got them, but the US didn't, like the Time Force flip heads. I don't even understand that. The figures were decent, they came with their weapons and a tattoo. I highly suggest you pick up the legacy versions, as long as they fix the flaw. I hope Hasbro brings these back.
Lightspeed Mega Battle Rangers.
This is one of the few times that the show used nearly everything from the figure line. They got these really bulky armor suits to work. For the time, it was an expansion on Leo's Battlizer armor, which I thought was a nice different take on the Battlizer. But Bandai went the extra step and included a CD-ROM in the toy set. This was a big deal for the time. Bandai is also a game company. It bugged me that they never married the two together. Even Super Sentai lacks this. While the disc was just fluff, it could have been expanded on, including photos, extra backstory information that the show couldn't do. I had wished they had continued this, but for what you get in the package, a decent Ranger figure, Mega Battle Armor, which was pretty strong, it was hard to stand the figures, especially green, that back was huge. If they wanted to do other Legacy figures, I love these.
Legacy figures.
Of course I was going to include these. For the most part, the Legacy figures are the best versions of the figures you can get. There are some issues. I don't see the point in the Build a Megazord gimmick. I know why it's there so that you're forced to buy all the figures. But if you pick the right teams to do, majority are gonna buy all 6 figures. I'd rather have more weapons choices. When they do come with their weapons, they're excellently detailed. There's a proper male-female mold. I don't get why everyone is built. It makes sense to do that for some of them, but most of the Rangers don't work out. Even the packaging is useful, so if you want to display them in there, you can do that. But I should mention some of the flaws, the whole releasing parts of seasons. That's extremely annoying to me. If you're gonna do the Cycle Rangers, do the Cycle Rangers. Don't have Trent in the set. The ladies usually get screwed in the releases. I understand that they don't sell that many. Just get them out first. For Zeo, Tommy, Cat, and Tanya should have been wave 1. Then do the others. But this could easily be avoided if Bandai just did the entire team so that you're not waiting. This has caused a problem. Everyone knows that Bandai lost the toy rights and it's going to Hasbro. Are we going to get Pink and Yellow Cycles released? It will be so stupid to not have Pink when she's the one who was used the most. Then we had the wrong morphers put on Shane and Dustin. It's such a minor detail, I don't mind that mistake, but then you have things like the silver belts on the second half of MMPR. I have 2 things to say. How on earth does that happen? I can see the mistake happening on a less popular season. I don't want it to happen at all, but this happening on MMPR, the suits that are known to everyone and no one catches that obvious mistake. And second, if they released them as complete teams, this wouldn't have happened. And finally, the cherry on top, the missing gold paint with the gold Zeo Ranger figure. Okay, Bandai, you wanted to save money, fine. You have your reasons. Why not cast the plastic in a more appropriate color? That way the figure wouldn't look like mustard. If you had made it a darker yellow, it would have worked. Of course, if you don't make the Zeo Megazord parts, that money could have gone to the gold paint. I know it looks like I'm hating on the figures, but I wanted to point out the problems in the line, but the figures overall are still great. There are fixed versions to the MMPR ones, and they did add some paint to the gold Zeo. I still say pick them up, they're still good.
Dino Charge 5-inch figures.
So why did I end up picking this line as the best one? What's the other thing that all the PR figures never do right? They don't have the villains that they fight. This is by far the worst thing that Bandai does. You have your heroes, but you don't have villains to complement them, which is why I love Dino Charge. They actually made practically every single monster, every single main villain that was on the show, and they looked decent. I have to commend Bandai for doing this. I don't like every monster out there, but if you make a figure that looks good, you're giving me a reason to buy them. My favorite is Puzzler. Are the figures perfect? No. Some needed more paint apps, but overall between the billion different Ranger modes, monsters, and main villains, if you love collecting figures, this was the season for you to love. And we didn't have to buy some stupid semi-truck to get Sledge. Originality in the Toyline is always welcome for me. The show doesn't have all the resources to do all kinds of things, so this gives them stuff to come up with. I still want it to make sense. Even when I was young, I never liked those Batman and Spider-Man Toylines that gave them some stupid suit. You want that done? Sell Iron Man armor. It has to make sense within the character and ability of the show. What are your thoughts on the figure lines for the PR seasons? Are there the only things that you like from Bandai America? Do you hate them? Do you prefer if they stuck solely to the show material? New episodes every Monday. Next week, I'll be looking at 10 creative ways Power Rangers adapted stories from Super Sentai and made it work.